So you do a lot of your work on phone and email, is that correct? Yeah. Sometimes it's on the left, sometimes it's on the right. So a lot of you, from what I understand, a majority of your work's handled over the phone and via email. In your tables, I just want you to take 2 minutes, and I want you to come up with what are the best practices that each of you use, and figure out which one you're going to vote on that you feel is the best. For phone, when you are communicating via phone, what is one of your best practices to make sure that your intentions and information is clearly understood? And when you're communicating via email, what do you do as a best practice to make sure your communication and intention is understood? So in your table, I want you to just talk about it for 2 minutes and come up with one answer for phone and one answer for email. What is best practices that you use that work? All right, I want to hear from some of you. Let's talk about phone first. What are some best practices you use when you're on the phone call to make sure that it's a good communication, your intention's clear, information's understood? Go ahead and yell them out. What do you got?
At our table, we had questioning and confirming the understanding of the call.
Okay, so you ask questions to confirm your understanding of the call. Great. Listen. Listen without interruption. That's hard. That's hard. That's hard, yes. So here is a good tip for that. Is if your intention is to make sure that you clearly understand what they're saying, and you always make it a goal to repeat back or paraphrase or summarize what you heard them say, then you make that a goal before you even start. You have to focus on what they're saying rather than coming up with your own advice or whatever you're going to say next. So if you say, my goal is to make sure I can paraphrase back and summarize what they're saying to me, then you have to pay attention rather than just be like, oh yeah, I get it. So here's what I think, right? Which is what a lot of us want to do. I mean, that's just how we all are, right? So good, thank you. Anybody else? Phone, best practices. What'd you come up with? That's a great question. And especially if I got a lot to talk to them about, we assume we just pick up the phone and call someone and they have 30 minutes to talk to us. That is almost never the case, right? Almost never. So either I make that call and say, I need 30 minutes of time today, when will it work for you? Or I send that via email. Or you can just say, I need about 10 minutes, do you have time now? Right? That's a very respectful example of good communication. Perfect. Another one. Anybody else? Other tables up here. Best practices on phone. Any of you guys come up with any?
So a lot of us.
So maybe personalize it, lighten it a little bit. Yeah, I'm not a huge proponent of, I call it the peanut butter shit sandwich is what I call it, where you give really great, hey, guess what? This is really good news. Here's the really crappy, awful news. And then I end it with really good news. Guess what they remember? The really crappy, awful news, and whatever you said after that, they don't even remember. So I am a proponent of giving really good news by itself, right? And then giving bad news by itself. I mean, because I think sometimes we try to lighten the blow by kind of glossing it over with good news, and nobody hears the good news. And they should hear it separately. That's just I wanted to add on to your point. I don't know if any of you feel that way, but I certainly have seen it in being in HR for many years. When managers give feedback to employees, I really try to coach them around how they deliver that, because they're never going to hear whatever you said after the bad feedback, ever, right? So that's important. All right, any other best practices? On page 4 of your handouts, there's a great list for phone and email. A couple other ones for the phone I just want to cover. Be clear, have your ideas outlined. Make sure you ask that question, what's my purpose, what's my intent, who am I communicating with? Set expectations. So not only do you have the time, here's what I would like to accomplish on this call. Here's the decision I want to come to before we end this call. That's a really great thing to do, right? So you've prepared people, they know what the purpose is.